All right, and we are back with Gym Newbie League casts. Today on the menu, we have Eris on Team Wine and Cheese versus Fila. Fila Mindbender on Superstars in Training. Welcome back, everybody. Hope you're all having a lovely Monday as we get ready for a showdown of the ages between Eris and Fila. We do have a human versus undead matchup here. Classic clash of two races who have hated each other since the beginning of Reign of Chaos on Northern Isles, also known as Undead Isles. So I'm interested to see how this showdown goes down. Undeads typically like to choose this map against humans, so if I had to guess, I would say Fila picked this one. And we are ready. We are ready to get in it as we go to Northern Isles. About a 1350 MMR. Fila typically floats around that range. I have not casted or played against Eris before, also known as NK000. But looking forward to seeing them perform. Let's get rid of the ping notification. Then the top there, we do have our undead contender, Fila the Mindbender, in the bottom left. Playing undead, going for Graveyard Crypt opener. Expect to see some fiends. Expect to see a Death Knight. In the top, potentially a rifle opener. No buildings yet. Getting some lumber. Might see the altar go down first, followed by barracks or blacksmith. Barracks should be up and coming very shortly, and then a couple farms to follow. So it looks like we will have Rifle Caster, the classic Thorzane build, versus DK Fiends. Throwback of the ages. No barracks coming up yet. I do hope it comes up soon so we can get those rifles pumping. There it is. So this should be quite an interesting match. I have not seen a good rifle caster human match in quite a while. A lot of humans have opted to go standard. Archmage footies, very strong creeping build. Also strong at holding pushes. However, against undead, Pally is a little more formidable as you do get the Holy Light. That can be an offensive spell against undead units. And much like the Death Knight, being able to heal your army is just very demoralizing to your opponent. There's nothing more painful than getting a fiend next to dead, 10, 15, 20 health remaining, and then that level 2 Death Coil comes in and basically snaps it back up to full health. Very hard to deal with. But you have to keep in mind when you do face off against a Paladin or a Death Knight, the mana does run out. It's just a battle of attrition. You need to stay in the battle. You need to keep fighting, keep microing, keep playing smart. Although the battles are longer, they do end. The Death Knight and the Paladin do run out of mana. And there is an end, although it seems at times there is no end in sight. Paladin out first, with a rifle and a couple militia going down to the Tuskar camp, it looks like, for their opener. As the Fiend is trying to do some cheeky pulls, get this creep closer down to the Death Knight, potentially try to fight it on Blight or near Blight. You see a Tuskar. Gotta get that militia. Oh, healed up. I'd like to see that militia just pulled out a little bit. You can attack your own unit to drop threat. Running away from a ranged unit, you might just get tagged one last time and die. It's always best to just do that attack animation cancel and drop threat on that creep. And then typically with these wounded peasants, do want to see them brought back to the mine, drop off the lumber, and then get into the gold mine, bring a full health peasant to the trees. So that way, when you do get attacked, like is what seems is about to happen, or they are preemptively going to the expo. Although I don't see a lot of fast expo, but I don't think he knows that Rifle Pally is the unit composition. Anyway, back to this injured peasant, so that way when you do call peasants into militia, you do have full health peasants and your injured ones can stay here. First engagement here. Now Fila knows Rifle Caster is the strategy. Creep stolen by Fila with the Death Coil. Very common. As the rifle does get healed up with a little Holy Light. Focus down. Death Coil on the rifle. Will the rifle fall? Nope. Another clutch Holy Light just in time to save. Gotta keep that kiting efficient as one rifle falls and grants level 2 to the Death Knight. One more rifle getting targeted down. Pally is now out of mana. Death Knight has 0 coils left, but quickly approaching one more coil. May use it offensively on the Paladin here. Just to force maybe an item purchase. Throw them off of their creep route. As both teams retreat temporarily. Death Knight is just going to come over here and maybe do the human a favor and creep his Expo for him. But that will result in the item going to the Death Knight unless it is contested quickly by Eris.
A player's forces are under attack.
More with those offensive Death Coils. Taking the item. Was it a Gauntlets? Oh no, this was a Crystal Ball, I believe, at this camp. Because I've gotten that Crystal Ball several times. I think it was a Crystal Ball. What should the Undead do against Rifle Pally? That's a great question. I don't typically play Rifle Caster. Sorry, Pally rifles. And I don't play as Undead, so I don't really see this matchup too commonly. But you're going to need... What I expect to happen from the human is some casters coming into play. So slow, inner fire. So you're going to want to get destroyers. You're going to want to devour that inner fire. You're going to want to devour that slow. Because once those inner fire rifles come online, they are incredibly tanky, incredibly potent. DPS throughput really starts building. And if you are not also prepared to deal with a potential Blood Mage second, very common second hero to support the Paladin, who will be siphoning mana from your Death Knight, from your Lich, becomes very hard to keep your army alive. So you need to get those destroyers, keep those devours rolling, devour that slow, devour that inner fire, and you have a chance. But you do have to micro those destroyers. You can't get them focused down. They are expensive units, 5 food. Going for the Undead's Expo now, while the human goes after the laboratory. Really nice thing about these rifles, they are very strong army composition for creeping. With the Archmage, you know, you do have your Water Elemental to tank. The Water Elemental does start scaling well, especially at the level 2. And is a great tank for you, as well as some good DPS. But rifles are just so good at dealing high amounts of damage, and the Paladin really good at sustain, keeping that army well healed. Do see the Lich coming out second, going right to tier 3. Slaughterhouse coming online. Do expect some statues coming out immediately. Now, you have to decide, do you want some A-bombs to help deal with those rifles? Get some high throughput normal damage on that medium armor. But you do have to watch out for that slow. Slowing those A-bombs when the rifles will kite, if done correctly, will be very painful and difficult to deal with, as the human taking some higher difficulty creep camps in the bottom. Due to the just mass amount of rifles. And a nice claws of attack for the Paladin. But we're going to have to drop something. What are we going to drop? Maybe, yep, the Cloak of Shadows. And I would like to see the Death Knight maybe pull back a little bit for a couple of these creep camps. Get this Lich up to level 3. That'd be a very nice level 2 Nova to deal with those rifles. Get some AoE damage on those rifles. And we do see the Blood Mage coming second. That is going to be a big pain point for the Undead, as the Blood Mage will certainly be siphoning mana from the Death Knight, limiting the amount of healing, limiting the amount of Death Coils for offensive purposes, and also limiting the amount of AoE Novas, which are very deadly to a human army. Especially when those rifles are clumped up, getting some Novas on them. Very potent offensive ability. As the Paladin continues to creep up, definitely want to see this Paladin maybe pulled back. Get this Blood Mage up to level 3. Blood Mage at level 3. Level 2 Siphon Mana is extremely potent. I think it's 30 mana per second. And if you combo that with a Banish, you could basically suck all the mana dry from a hero with one Siphon cycle. It is extremely potent. And Undead without mana
Player's
is
forces are
extremely
under
weak.
attack.
Undead are very powerful heroes for focus fire, single target nuke with Death Coil Nova. And if you don't have that mana to get those nukes off, to get those heals off, you become much more limited. Now you're seeing the power of the Blood Mage. Although a high micro hero, a little more difficult to control than maybe a Mountain King and Archmage, when done correctly, is extremely effective. Do see the first engagement of the game, besides that tiny engagement at the creep camp, taking down that shop, going to negate the ability to train breakers. Breakers are needed. Sorry, a vault is needed to train breakers, so no more breakers, no more items for the human. And the first Nova goes out on the rifle. First rifle falls, and the Siphon manas are already coming out. Death Knight getting into better position. Fiends are being focused by the Paladin. Offensive now on the Death Knight. Focus fire on the Death Knight. Death Knight is forced to retreat back. And A-bombs are starting to come out, but one will fall, and this rifle will survive with a nice Holy Light on the rifle to save it. Level 2 goes to the Blood Mage, and Fila needs to recover, and needs to recover fast, and start getting prepared for this Tier 3 human army. When we see Tier 3, maybe we see some Knights to deal with those Fiends, maybe a transition to Knights. Unless we do want to stay Rifles, then you will certainly see some Inner Fire Priests coming out. Inner Fire Rifles are extremely powerful. We saw this in ESL recently when, who was it? Was it Johnny Cage beat, what is his name? I can't remember his name. X-Lord. Two incredibly good players, incredibly good undead. And we saw Inner Fire Rifles from Johnny Cage. And he 3-0'd X-Lord. Very impressive performance. So Rifle Caster does work against undead. But with a good critical mass of melee, of A-bombs, I also have seen some undead go mass ghouls with Ghoul Frenzy, although ghouls do melt to rifles. It is hard to manage a huge amount of ghouls in your face, and the Pally will get targeted down by a long-range Death Coil, and that's gonna hurt. A couple more Novas on these rifles, and 4 of them may fall with one more Nova right here, and GG is called by Eris. Well done to Fila, taking game 1. Not afraid of the Rifle Caster army. I really think if that Pally was pulled back and micromanaged just a little bit better, we could have seen a different turnout that game. We really could have. But because some technical mistakes there, the Pally not brought back, maybe not with an invuln pot, although once you get the Pally with its own Divine Shield ability, you could kind of handle yourself. But I think that's what's difficult about the Rifle Caster army, especially with Paladin Blood Mage. It is difficult to micro. It is a high micro intensity army. It is not an auto attack army like Knights and Gyrocopters. Like with those, you can almost just hit A click, left click, micro your heroes around, and your Knights and Gyrocopters, the Gyros are automatically going to target the Destroyers. The Knights are going to focus heroes or fiends, and they're perfect counters. If you could just manage your Archmage, MK, and Paladin, get some heals up on some of your Knights, get some critical staffs of Sanctuary where they're needed, it's a much easier army. With this army, Rifles, Pally, Blood Mage, you have to keep the Paladin microed at all times. It will get targeted, as you saw. You have to keep the Blood Mage healed up. You have to keep the siphons going. You have to siphon that mana out of the undead army, and you got to pass that mana back to the Paladin while microing your rifles, focusing down the right units, microing the injured rifles back home. And Fila handled it gracefully. Big nukes on the Paladin, big Novas on the rifles, a couple A-bomb, or I think just one A-bomb, maybe 1 or 2 were on the way, and didn't have to deal with the Inner Fire because the Tier 3 was not there yet. And with that going right into Game 2, Fila is up, Fila is up by 1. Let us update Booster here to reflect the score. There we go. And we will see a transition into a more standard build from the human now. Probably going to see Footies, Archmage. It's typically what you want to do as human here if you are going to go up against DK. and I think we are going to see DK Fiends again, based on this graveyard, is you want to get the footies, you want to get to tier 2 right after your expo, you want to get that expo up quickly, but you want to get to knights, you want to get to copters to deal with those destroyers, to deal with those fiends. There will be a lot of fiends, there will be quite a bit of destroyers. Knights are incredibly powerful against fiends. Copters, very powerful against destroyers. And as the undead, how do you prepare for that? How do you counter that? There will be some casters on the field, potentially. You do see a couple priests, maybe a couple sorceresses, especially at these lower levels, where the undead players and the human players are not as efficient with their devours, with their dispels, as you would see at the higher levels. So you can potentially get away with some slow. You can get away with some inner fire and not risk it getting devoured. So you do see slightly different tweaks to these strategies at the lower levels, where you can take advantage of some of those spells, where at the higher levels, they would get devoured almost instantly. And from Weirsay in the chat, we do see a Fila special coming. I am very much ready to see what that is. And the hero of choice will be... Will be... Drum roll. Drum roll. Come on. Oh, Tavern. Is it the Tavern hero? 2, 1. The Pit Lord. Oh boy. Now, we did see a big Pit Lord match last week where the Cleaves were devouring the human army. Level 3 Cleave was decimating, and I believe it was courtesy of Fat Russell in the chat, decimating the human army. Casters, every slice from that Pit Lord was taking chunks out of the whole army. And the Pit Lord is here. And the humans should be very afraid. If that Pit Lord gets to critical levels, level 5, that Pit Lord can hard carry any army to victory. Incredibly tanky, incredibly powerful offense. But you do have to power level it up to 5 and power level it quickly. Definitely want to see some more damage on those water elementals, taking less damage on those footies to keep them high health for what should be an incoming harassment at the expo. Almost every undead knows that the human is almost always going to try to fast expo against you. So you need to get your creeping done quickly and head down and try to counter and prevent that expo from coming online. Are we going to see some militia called? Perhaps just one base, actually, because early tech not going for the expo. A little counter meta here. I'd love to see changes in the game. Weirsay knows the counter. What is the counter? If you could shed some knowledge to both myself and all of our wonderful viewers here, how do you counter this? When it gets to level 5, what do you do? It's just a force to be reckoned with at level 5, and then when you get to level 6 and you get Doom involved, oh, don't let it get to level 5. Simple. Simple. It's a flowchart. If level 5, GG. If not level 5, maybe not GG. I love it. Some of these footies damaged from some inefficient creeping. Definitely some room for improvement there to get that creeping. As human, you definitely want to get, and something I struggle with, definitely want to work on getting that creeping as efficient as possible, as little damage on these footies and militia as possible, trying to soak all the damage on those water elementals. Very important for those early harassments and just to keep your creeping efficient. The higher health your footies are, the more damage you can do, the less footies you have to pull back, the faster you can get these creep camps done. As you see, Fila leveling up that Pit Lord should get level 3 from this creep camp here. Howl of Terror reducing the damage of all the creeps. As you can see here, -7, that will add up, that will be very helpful. Going for the Merc camp. Potentially going to get a couple Mercs here, maybe a Shadow Priest, maybe a Berserker to help with some healing. Get these footies back up. We might see a footy fall here. That is a slight technical mistake. Maybe this militia as well. 2 units have fallen. This injured footy also coming back in. Hopefully the AI of the creeps does not damage the footies any further. To see some unnecessary damage going down. Now, Eris, if you're watching this later, try to damage your own water elemental with these guys and back the footies up. The creeps will target your water elemental. Go, just auto attack your water elemental once, and if you're quick enough, you can even cancel the animation. You will drop threat on those creeps. It will help you tremendously. You would have avoided buying a Scroll of Healing here and potentially avoided a couple unit losses. As we see the Pit Lord continuing to creep up, getting up to level 5 as quickly as possible. The Fiends are here doing damage to these creeps. And the Pit Lord is not afraid. With a Scroll of the Beast in the inventory, will he sell it? Will he keep it for some higher damage output from his army? Scroll of Intellect, although not casting really any high mana spells at the moment, will certainly come in handy. And another Scroll of the Beast. May want to sell one of those. Get a nice little gold chunk to help with your tier 2 and tier 3 transitions. As we see Death Knight coming out to help support that Pit Lord, help keep it sustained, keep it in the battle at all times, keep that damage with the level 2 cleave, and the human going for a delayed expo after tier 2 is up. And an Arcane Sanctum following behind it, transitioning to rifles and an MK, a more standard build, gonna potentially go into Rifle Caster with a mid-game expo on the way. Death Knight, Fiends, and Pit Lord coming down to challenge the human, as some statues are on the way in tier 3, closely following. Now, I would love to see this Archmage pulled back, get that MK to level 3, a very crucial level, so the MK can soak all that experience for himself. If you get that Archmage back, maybe half a screen, maybe 3/4 of a screen back here, that MK would soak all of the XP. Same, although a little different story for the Undead, because we do want that Pit Lord up to level 5, and we do want that Death Knight up to level 3 for some much more potent death coils, both offensive and defensive, so maybe wouldn't mind having both heroes soak XP here. But for the human, 100% want to see this MK up to level 3 as soon as possible, and now Eris is seeing the unfortunate situation that this shop has already been crept, and a Scroll of Healing has potentially already been purchased? No Scroll of Healing purchased yet, just haven't had an additional come in to the shop yet. I definitely want to see this Archmage pulled back, get that MK to level 3 as soon as possible. Those big Thunderclaps or more potent Storm Bolts will definitely go a long way for you. And level 4, the Pit Lord is becoming scarier and scarier as time goes on. It will soon cross a threshold where the end is here, and the Pit Lord will have no equal, and the Pit Lord will be able to solo most of your army, especially rifles and casters, who are susceptible to the cleave. And the human expo does get canceled. Fila is here to take it down, make sure this human does not get an economic advantage, as those peasants, one is going to slip away, but potentially be caught. And rather than go back home, we will see some disruption at the Undead base. MK here. Will we see some clap on these ghouls? We do see some clap on these ghouls. The lumber economy is being evaporated by the Undead. The human player is here. Some focus fire on the MK. Will some footies fall before the TP is gone? And I would say a pretty decent trade. All of the lumber economy for the Undead is now gone. All ghouls have fallen. What did the Undead do? The Undead took the expo. Overall, a big setback for both players. Eris invested quite a bit of economy into getting this expo up. Also, no lumber coming in. Although you're sitting at 584, we do have to spend quite a bit of gold getting those ghouls back in play. Quite a setback for the Undead, although it seems like it's going to be manageable for now. As we are going to come to the laboratory. Want to get that MK to level 3. Pull that Archmage back. Soak up that level 3 with this MK. It would be so nice to get that level 2 clap going. Not quite going to get it here. I think you're just going to miss level 3 by 30 XP, 29 XP to be exact. And the Pit Lord is here, and Doom is coming for the human player. Eris is not afraid, but you are going to see, look at the AoE, look at the cleave. And now the Howl of Terror reducing the damage coming from those rifles. MK is here. Will we get some claps? Claps are rolling. Archmage putting some damage on that A-bomb. As the human is pushed back, the human should continue kiting. That is the right play. You can't just sit here and eat those cleaves. You have to keep kiting. You have to keep that Pit Lord at bay. Keep those claps rolling. Target that Death Knight down. The Death Knight needs to be careful. The Death Knight needs to drop a healing ward or two, and the Death Knight falls. MK is very low. Gets that heal pot off just in time. And the Pit Lord, a lot of damage on these footies, and you see that cleave takes both footies down. The Pit Lord is extremely powerful, extremely strong, going to take down Ward Elemental, and slowly getting closer and closer to level 5, that critical level where the Pit Lord becomes an unstoppable force. Very injured human army. Can you go back and defend your base with a 40 HP AM and a 260 HP MK? If that Death Knight was around, this would be very dangerous territory for the human. Although, with some precise kiting, you're not in immediate danger from a nuke with the AM. You don't have coils approaching your way, but you do need to get your army healed up, and healed up fast. As the MK is focused down, a nice clap, level 1 clap, shows level 2 Stormbolt instead. 41 food from Eris, 48 food. Uh-oh, now here comes danger. One slice from that Pit Lord could be big trouble, and now level 5. We do see the level 3, and look at that. Not even being targeted. He's targeting the other rifle, and this rifle almost falls. And the AM, a couple slices, and down goes the Archmage. And a couple more slices, and big cleaves from the Pit Lord results in GG. Eris calls GG. Fila with a smooth 2-0. As Wine and Cheese... Is it Wine and Cheese? Who is it? Who took the win? Superstars in Training takes the win. As Superstars in Training now gets 3 points from that. Superstars in Training takes the lead in GNL Season 7 with 44 points, going from 41 to 44 points, overtaking Clutch or Kick, who is sitting at 43 points. Wine and Cheese will stay at 32 points and not quite make it into the standings, into the top 3, where is exactly you want to be. But that was a great matchup from our players. Very well done by Fila and Eris. Hope you guys enjoyed the cast. I believe that is all we have for right now. So just a quick cast for today. 27 minutes.